Is there any plausible reason why extraterrestrial aliens would evolve to look like us Earthlings, us humans? In science fiction movies and TV shows, intelligent aliens are usually the same basic shape as humans: two arms, two legs, and a head. But why would creatures that evolved on a completely different planet look so similar to us? We asked some experts, and they told us the most likely explanation for humanoid aliens. The truth is, aliens tend to look like us in science fiction for a couple of basic reasons: budget and relatability. Most aliens in science fiction are humanoid because humans produce science fiction, says Michael H. New, an astrobiology discipline specialist at NASA. While we are interested in the other, our concept of otherness is often limited. And a lot of experts firmly believe that aliens would not look at all like humans. For example, Stephen Jay Gould claims that life would evolving elsewhere would look totally different from us. And in fact, if you reran the tape from the beginning of life on Earth, you would not end up with humans on this planet either. The emergence of humanoids on Earth is a totally random event that was a fluke, even with the exact conditions that we arose from. But let's say that we do meet aliens, and they turn out to be bipeds with a roughly human-like shape. How do we explain that? Panspermia? This is the most common explanation of creatures that look sort of like us, turning up all over the universe. Either humanoid aliens spread their DNA across the galaxy to give rise to creatures in their image, or the DNA just spread through the galaxy on its own, on asteroids and stuff. I'm of the strong opinion that humanoid aliens exist. They must have some, if they exist, they must have some genetic heritage in common with human beings, says Mark Bullock with the Southwest Research Institute. He'd find that easier to believe than the notion that humanoids could evolve independently elsewhere. Plus, it's been shown that panspermia is quite a viable mechanism, so the interchange of genetic material between worlds is not out of the question. We know a lot about the history of life on Earth, but how it began is still one of our greatest. In the galaxy, if the galaxy in reality did turn out to be full of humanoid aliens, some kind of panspermia would not be a bad explanation. We're bilaterally symmetrical and bipedal because our ancestors were. It's entirely possible that if certain events had played out differently, the dominant species on Earth would have had a different shape. The Burgess Shale, which is roughly 500 million years old, displays a wide range of body plans, only some of which are still seen on the modern Earth. So he believes that you would not need some outside intervention to account for humanoid aliens. Bullock sounds a similar note, saying that the Cambrian explosion 600 million years ago saw a great deal of evolutionary experimentation with body plans, some of which could be a glimpse of life forms that we might see on other planets. Humans on Earth are so obviously a part of Earth's evolutionary program, said Skonzewicki, from the molecular cellular level to the shape of organisms, we humans evolved here. Or maybe humanoids just evolved on other planets separately from us because they just arrived at the same destination via other paths. There are certain things about humans that help us rise over other primates, says James Kessling, a distinguished professor of geoscience at Penn State University. Our opposable thumbs helped us grasp tree branches and also hold tools, and walking upright was useful as well. Finally, being warm-blooded helped us to power our big brains. I would think that there's a good chance that intelligent alien life evolved in more or less the same way, and would thus bear some resemblance to humans, says Casting. Not necessarily a close resemblance, though. The upright walking, bipedal, two-armed posture seems to have evolved independently in various unlikely contexts, from meerkats to velociraptors. Maybe it just makes sense to have 2 feet to move, 2 hands to manipulate something, and a sensory head with as wide a view as possible, then again, that's what we have, so it makes sense to us. We have not seen enough examples of convergent evolution on Earth to believe that it could happen on other planets as well, notes Stephen Dick, 2013-14, Baruch Bloomberg, NASA Library of Congress Chair in Astrobiology at the Library of Congress. For example, the eye has been reinvented many times independently, as have wings in insects, birds and bats. Fish and marine mammals, such as dolphins, have evolved streamlined shapes for their water environment. Dick recommends the 1981 book Life in Darwin's Universe, Evolution and the Cosmos by Gene Bielinski, which argues that a limited number of engineering solutions are possible when it comes to successful life forms. The man who collects mid-century modern cameras. But Dick adds that you cannot discount evolutionary factors which would ensure that life on other planets would look at least somewhat different, including gravity. And Dick says because they would have been shaped by their own unique planetary environments, organisms would be different from us in the particulars, just as there is great diversity of life on Earth, including the different requirements of land and water organisms. More generally, gravity imposes size limitations on life, from the cell to the whale, as is a large range indeed, but the food system of the whale and the dinosaur on land must strain to feed such a large structure, even as the heart struggles to sustain its blood flow. Life on a low-gravity planet might be free to soar upwards both in the plant and animal kingdom, while life on a high-gravity planet would be correspondingly stifled. Bilateral symmetry. Let's say that the notion of alien separately evolving bodies that have more or less a human silhouette is kind of unlikely. It's still possible that bilateral symmetry could be a constant among intelligent life forms, say some experts. This refers to the fact that your left and right sides are more or less the same, with an eye, an ear, an arm, a leg on either side. Bilateral symmetry appeared independently several different times in the evolution of larger organisms on Earth. So bilateral symmetry may be a common feature of intelligent life, regardless of whether it's specific of its specific body plan. And once you have a lot of quadrupeds on land, one of those quadrupeds is going to start using its front limbs to manipulate tools. If you can free two limbs to manipulate tools, then it becomes very advantageous to develop high intelligence. So assuming an intelligent alien is symmetrical and has some of its limbs devoted to tool use, then it might end up being roughly biped, says Ostman, and the sensory organs like eyes would have to be forward-looking and not too far away from the tool-using limbs, which means you end up with something like a head, because the nervous system will be close to the sensory organs for maximum efficiency. So those two factors, symmetry and tool use, may lend themselves to something at least vaguely similar to human shape, says Othman. And if we're to eventually find other intelligent life forms in the universe, they would be humanoid, I think, Othman says. I find that a high probability. But at the same time, he admits he's in the minority, and most other scientists agree with Gould that humanoid life is unlikely to evolve elsewhere. This was published on Medium by Gizmodo on Solask. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.